This video has absolutely nothing to do with your choice to go to doctors and to take the knowledge that they have and apply that to yourselves. You have every right to do that, the same way I have every right to go against that stream. And with me, I'm just providing information on this video to why God says that the medical field is not doing things the way that He said to do things. In fact, they're doing things totally contrary to what God said to do. Stay tuned.
God is love. Love is power.
Cats have kittens. Dogs have puppies. Cows have calves. This is a law of like produces like. So in the beginning, God said He made living creatures to produce after His kind, cattle and creeping thing and beast of the earth after His kind. And it is so. So when God came to man, He said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. So I'm made in the likeness of God. The next logical question would be, what is God like? If I'm made like Him, then what is He like? The first description of God that we have from Jesus is, and I don't want to put numbers on it, but the one that I'm going to deal with first is where Jesus said, God is a spirit. And He goes on to say, those who worship Him must worship Him in spirit and in truth. But the important thing is that God is a spirit. So here we are. I'm trying to find out my identity. I'm trying to find out how I can discover myself. God is a spirit. And because He's a spirit, everything that He's made in the universe, including the universe, is spiritual. The real universe, the real us, we cannot see because we are spiritual. God is spirit. You cannot see Him. You cannot discern Him with the physical senses. And so that's just, to me, that just makes sense to me. You don't have to argue that. You don't have to pound that in my head. I don't have to keep on walking blindly and falling and thinking I'm something else. No, I'm spiritual. That's the first principle that God has taught us. Now I'm going to just deal with that on dealing with likeness, because remember, like produces like. Dogs make puppies, cats make kittens. That's just the way that is. God, spirit, makes spiritual beings. The end. Now before I go any further, I'm going to offer you some scripture where you can look this up so you can better become convinced, because I don't need any more scripture. I'm basing everything, my common sense, that logic is in me. That logic is presenting that this is the truth. But if you need more proof, I'll offer the proof to you right here. Job 33:4. Psalms 104:30. Psalms 139:7. Proverbs 123. Isaiah 42:1. John 1:32 through 34. Romans 8:16. 1 John 5:6. God is spirit. Spirit is one of the synonyms in Christian Science in which we address God. We understand that God is spirit, and from there we allow information or revelation to unfold to us. See, once you get the truth about God, once you have a truth, God will start revealing to you more about Him on that truth that you have. So God is a spirit. I get to work with that concept, and I get to have that concept growing in my thinking. Revelation is going to just start pouring in, and it will for you too if you just take these scriptures, and meditate on them. So now that I've presented you with the proof that we are spiritual beings because we come from spirit, that makes us spiritual beings. So I want to get into where the medical field might have missed the likeness of spirit and how we should adhere to that. And that's where all of that possibility of the greatness that we have comes from, knowing that God is spirit. And this is where we misconstrued our identity, and this is how it happened. Okay, here is where God warns us not to follow the likeness of any other creature or any other creation on earth. He's talking to man. Moses was instructed by God to give them information on their likeness and what not to copy or to look after to be like. And this is exactly what he says. Listen to this. Verse 15. Take ye therefore good heed unto yourselves, for you saw no manner of similitude on the day that the Lord spake unto you in Horeb out of the midst of the fire. 16. Lest ye corrupt yourselves and make you a graven image, the similitude of any figure, the likeness of male or female, the likeness of male or female. So here, now remember, God is a spirit, and everything that he made in his sight is spiritual. So we're spiritual, correct? I'm just reminding you of that. So here he is saying, don't make no likeness. Don't make yourself like male or female. Now, what does the medical field work with in their medical studies? Cadavers, dead male and female bodies. And this is how they tell us that we're made. We're made up of so many bones, so many red blood cells, so many white blood cells. And God is saying, you're made like me. Just like you cannot see me, you cannot see the real you. And so it's a mirage. It's a front for us to look at this physical body. It's a front. It's not the real us. But what do? We take male and female bodies apart and we say we're like that. That's what they say. You got one heart, you got two lungs, you have two kidneys, you have a digestive system, you have a nervous system, you have a lymphatic system. All of these systems is how you are operating and functioning with that body. Let's continue with the things that we make ourselves like. The likeness of any beast that is on the earth, the likeness of any winged fowl that flieth in the earth, the likeness of anything that creepeth on the ground, the likeness of any fish that is in the waters beneath the earth. So at this point, I want to remind you what God said he made in the beginning when he made man. This is what he said. Let's remind ourselves. And God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. What could possibly be harmful about us seeing ourselves like our parents, like our father, like our mother, and not like God? Well, God said spiritual man, the one he made that spiritual, he gave that man dominion over all the earth, over all the creeping things, over all the fish in the sea and the birds that fly in the sky. God gave us charge over all of that. As far as us being like anything creeping on the earth, Sorry, Darwin, you lose. We don't come from monkeys. Sorry. Get out of here with that crap. We are like God, period. But what charge do we have over that if we see ourselves as a physical being who can't go any further than this physical body? Who, when disease comes, you trapped in this body and you're trapped with this disease. But as a spiritual being, you can rise above and see yourself the way God truly made you. This is going to take some meditation, some study, and some really seeing yourself differently than you see yourself now. It just is. Sorry. It's going to be hard work. And lest thou lift up thine eyes unto heaven, and when thou seest the sun and the moon and the stars, even all the host of heaven, shouldeth be driven to worship them and serve them, which the Lord thy God hath divided unto all nations under the whole earth. Now this particular part had me cracking up because this reminds me of astrology. And so astrology says this: you have 12 personalities that split among like 7 billion people. Leos think this way, and Aquarius thinks this way, and Scorpios are like this, and Taurus the bull is like this. I mean, my mother was a zodiac sign fanatic. Everything. You can't have no man that's a Leo. You and Leos are not compatible because of such and such. I used to couldn't stand it. Just get out of here with that. Our personalities are stemming from God. I don't care about what they're saying, but all of that is a form of getting us away from the likeness of God. Because if Leos are stubborn or whatever they say about them, then you're telling us that they have a characteristic or a nature that is unlike God. So anything that's called an antichrist. That's what an antichrist is anytime you're saying a man is something other than the likeness of God, that's an antichrist. Period. That's an antichrist. Here's another habit among scientists in the medical field. When they're doing testing certain drugs or whatever, when they test mice and say, if it happened to the mouse, it's going to happen to man. And what that does is say, man is like creeping things that creeps on the earth. They don't have dominion. They're like that. If I'm like a mouse, I don't have dominion over mice. And remember that video I have where God had me to command mice out of my house and they left? I have dominion over mice. I am a spiritual daughter of God and I claim my right. I claim my right to have dominion on this earth. I don't care what nobody else say anymore. You guys can say whatever you want, hold whatever you want. I'm responsible for my consciousness. I'm responsible for what I fill it up with. The whole thing is don't worry about it, because if I'm not filling it up with truth, I'm going to dissolve. So this is the end of this video, and I just want to tell you or show you some of the scriptures that back up everything that I've said on this video. How man has dominion, how man has taken God's dominion that he gave to man, and they hid it from us with all of this knowledge. All of this stuff that they're saying we're like this and you're like that. They've hidden it from us. But it's our responsibility to uncover it, to find out what God is like, to know God. Because once we learn who God is, we know who we are. Because we're made in his image and after his likeness. And anyone who takes offense to that, oh well, get over it.